Whenever we celebrate a life cycle event, celebrate someone becoming B'nai Mitzvah, for example, I think it's human instinct that we recall our own experiences. We reflect on when our own children became B'nai Mitzvah. I think back to my own bar mitzvah, which some of you in this room still think was a couple of years ago, but it was not. Thinking back to my own bar mitzvah, my family made the decision to cover the shulchan, cover the reading table, where we read Torah from, with the shawl that belonged to my great-grandmother, my father's bubby. It wasn't just about making sure the presence of our loved ones who are no longer physically with us was felt, which is so important, understanding, as our bat mitzvah taught us, that we are this link in this chain from our ancestors to our descendants. It was about more than that. As family lore suggested, she wore that shawl on her back when she came to this country from Russia. It was a recognition of our journey as a family, our journey as a people. It was a recognition of where we are, where we've come from. But it was really about more than that. The Torah not only commands us to love the stranger. It tells us we love the stranger because we were once strangers. The Torah reminds us constantly that we treat each other with dignity, respect, compassion, for we remember what it was like when we weren't, and how quickly we forget within Torah. Within the span of just a few chapters, we go from being an enslaved people, a people that are treated differently and othered, to being a free people that have laws about owning our own slaves, that have laws about how we should treat others who are different than us. And we need to be reminded time and time again to love the sojourner. The shawl on that reading table that morning, with the text that's the core of our tradition resting on it, wasn't just connecting my family's past with the present. It was reminding me as a 13-year-old with newfound responsibility, it was reminding all of us present that we need to constantly speak up and stand up for the stranger, for the sojourner, for the immigrant. For we are people of strangers, of sojourners as well. With Delaney Hall opening just a couple of weeks ago in our own backyard, Newark is now home to the newest ICE detention center, a 1,000-bed complex run by a private prison company without any congressional oversight. In fact, just last week, 3 New Jersey members of Congress attempted to gain access to tour the facility. They were denied. Newark Mayor Baraka was allowed on the property by a guard, and then once he was quickly arrested for trespassing. It seems that the plan for ICE this time around is that as long as the atrocities in these detention centers are hidden, as long as access is denied, there's a hope that we, who are literally commanded to speak up, to stand up, to speak out, will ignore what's going on. We'll forget about it. Out of sight, out of mind. But we can only imagine the unimaginable atrocities, since we already have heard the stories of what's happening on our streets, of people literally disappearing, people being stopped on sidewalks for no reason, except because of their ethnicity or the language that they're speaking, and law enforcement officers in plain clothes, not in uniform, without showing ID, quickly arrest them. No direction given to their family to where they are being detained, without access to a lawyer or fair legal system. I bring this up because we are quiet and complacent. I bring this up because we should be enraged that our neighbors, colleagues, coworkers, employees are scared to leave their homes out of fear of an ICE raid taking place in their own neighborhoods. But we should be enraged because such actions are antithetical to what Torah teaches us. Not just, as I said, to love the stranger, a lesson that is mentioned more times than any other mitzvah in the entire Torah. But because, as we learn this Shabbat, above all, the ger and the ezrach, the stranger and the citizen, should be treated the same. Our bat mitzvah taught us that within our parsha, the bulk of our parsha is a reminder of the observances of the holidays throughout our calendar. But at the conclusion of Parashat Emor, after a graphic list of punishments for transgressions, including the famous ayin tachat ayin, eye for an eye punishment, the Torah tells us in Vayikra chapter 24, verse 22, Mishpat echad yeh lachem kager kezrach, yeh ki ani Adonai Elohechem. That at least biblical law, the divine commandment is clear. That the law and the standard shall be one and the same for the ger, the stranger, the sojourner, the immigrant, and the ezrach, the citizen. Why? With that exclamation point, because I am the Lord your God. The Torah is telling us, because I am the Lord your God, we are all treated the same and viewed the same in the eyes of God. Rashi even notes that this reminder concludes with Ani Adonai Elohechem to clarify that God is literally saying, just as I attach my name to you, my people in this covenant, so too I do to all immigrants, to all peoples, to the stranger in your midst. God is literally saying that God is within each of us and that the legal systems that we develop must treat each person in the same manner, regardless of citizenship or status. It may seem odd that within this list of holidays, there's this throwaway verse at the end, which reminds us to have this legal system that treats everyone the same. But it's there because we need to be reminded. I remember 8 years ago, during ICE raids, when there seemed to be protests and actions all the time. And I'm constantly asking myself, where are those this time? Is it just that we're exhausted? Is it just that we fear our own safety? Is it just that we are apathetic or complacent? We need to be reminded time and time again to speak up, to stand up. Because if loving the stranger is the essence of Torah, then the reminder of making sure that we have a legal system that sees everyone, ger and ezrach, as the same, treated fairly under the law, is essential. Which is why this moment is so scary. Because of the lack of transparency, the lack of access to those being imprisoned in our own backyard at Delaney Hall, or the quality of their condition, or the fact that residents are disappearing off the streets and nobody knows where they are. So if our parsha is telling us that sojourner and citizen are treated alike, then we need to be reminded and thus do our part again, together. So why is it that it seemed that 8 years ago, everybody was marching in the streets and we're far too exhausted or complacent now? I don't know. I ask that question to myself. Why am I not marching more, protesting more, speaking up more? But I know what the Torah is telling us is that we all too often stand idly by, and we can't when such atrocities are happening in our backyard. So in the weeks to come, I hope you'll consider joining me in speaking up more, and protesting, and taking action, as we remind one another that we must love the stranger, to treat the stranger equally. Why, the Torah tells us? Because we were once strangers. We need that reminder. But that reminder within Torah is not enough. We need to use that reminder to act as well.